This was a time of deep suspicions held by the two superpowers on either side of the ocean. This was right in the middle of the Cold War. Soviets had not put Sputnik into space yet, and the US had not launched its own satellite. You have high tension between the nations and just kept building. The US was building all kinds of surveillance to capture any activity that the Soviets might be doing. Everyone is on high alert. And then the United States detects something in orbit. This is their worst nightmare. On the other side of the world, the Soviets, we can assume, also detected this something with their instrumentation. Can you imagine the surprise when both the Americans and the Soviets realized it wasn't either of them? Yet the discovery of an Earth-orbiting satellite, or two, was reported, and the respected astronomer Clyde Tombaugh, this is the discoverer of Pluto, is said to have been involved. So this is big news. The fact is, these guys had been dealing with genuine and disturbing UFO reports for years by then. They knew there was, at the very least, an intelligence behind this phenomenon. You know, you're dealing with all of these objects that are hanging out over your sensitive military installations, nuclear facilities, scientific installations, naval bases, and so forth. And now you're seeing objects in orbit? So here you've got two superpowers in danger of this escalating even more, and yet both of them are here witnessing a third party. Something they can't explain is orbiting Earth. This situation had to make them question, like, all of humanity for just a second. If you are literally in the same place of vulnerability as your foe, asking, what is this? Why is it here?
We live in a fraught time. We have war, pandemics, climate change. And everywhere you look, fear and conflict. We seem to be at a precipice, a turning point for our planet. And while all this is happening, we are seeing an uptick in UFOs and UAPs. Could they be connected? I started to get my answer in the summer of 1977. My family decided to move down to Florida in 1977, very close to the Opa-locka Airport, a Miami neighborhood notorious for crime, murder, and it was home for most of my childhood. And one day I was outside of my backyard watching the planes go over, and all of a sudden, this object came across that did not look like an airplane. Now, keep in mind, in the 70s, I didn't know anything about UFOs, aliens, or anything. All I knew was what I saw, for me, didn't look like an airplane. It didn't have a wing, a fuselage, a cockpit. It was more oval-shaped, almost like a glowing metal, and then it just took off the way that it came in. And so this was a sighting that I had, and then about 12 years ago, something really strange happened to me. I kept hearing this repeating phrase over and over again in my mind. Worldwide telescope, worldwide telescope, worldwide telescope. It just kept repeating over and over and over again. I typed in worldwide telescope. The first search result was worldwidetelescope.org. And I literally almost fell out of my chair. It just so happens it was actually the telescope that leads us into accessing all of the space probe data from all the missions that we've sent into space. For me, this was the beginning of a lifelong interest in aerospace, UFOs, and the unexplained. I felt that whatever was trying to communicate with me was trying to show me the answer, lead me to some understanding. Eventually, I formed a group called the United Family of Anomaly Hunters to help find answers about what's really out there and where we really come from, and of course, why all this is happening. Then something caught my eye. In 2014, I came across NASA photographs taken during the 1988 STS-88 shuttle mission. Today, most ufologists refer to this mysterious object as the Black Knight. NASA claims it's space debris. Like many others out there, I don't buy it. And that led me into my research and what I think is the most important thing to understand. Are we being watched? Who is watching us? And where are they from? And could they somehow be manipulating our current state of affairs on this planet? I've become focused on answering these questions. If the object is something extraterrestrial, what are the ramifications for planet Earth? And could it be the key that unlocks a deeper understanding of our place in the universe? To find the answers, I'm launching a new investigation with the help of experts and anomaly hunters from around the world.
Somebody is watching us.
And it is my hope that together we will find the truth about the Black Knight.
T-minus 10, 9, 8.
December 4th, 1998, Space Shuttle Endeavour takes off from the John F. Kennedy Space Center. It will be the first shuttle to dock with the International Space Station, and it will connect a U.S.-built module called Unity. When NASA released photographs of the mission, people around the world noticed something odd. An object orbiting above the Earth. Was it some piece of debris? Or was it another spacecraft?
QPSI will take the defrost pump man about to close.
Copy.
The crew completed 3 spacewalks during the STS-88 mission and possibly left pieces of debris behind. So skeptics will tell you that the object we see in the photos is just a trunnion pin thermal cover, or what's more commonly called a heat blanket. But some experts aren't so sure. Chris, I consider you one of the top anomaly hunters literally in the world. And I want you to tell me, what is this space blanket that NASA claims to be this anomaly?
Basically, this blanket it covers a certain part on each of these modules that make up the ISS. So basically, when these modules are inside the cargo area of the space shuttles, it stops these from moving around.
Chris, please tell me how these debunkers have used the NASA space blanket theory to wish away this entire anomaly, but you have debunked the debunkers with your information. Please explain.
They're saying that it is nothing more than a blanket, when clearly it is not. This is not just a flat blanket. Now, if you do look at the blanket in a certain way, it actually has the piece that is actually sewn on this flat blanket to accommodate the trunnion pin. After you look at this other object out in space and bring up the brightness and the exposure, you can clearly see this has mass. This is quite large.
So Chris, I've been looking at the NASA server and I see that there's more than one image of this anomaly. Do you believe that this database of images are multiple individual things, or do you think that it's the same exact anomaly?
Well, in my opinion, it is actually different. It's not the same object. A lot of the photos you do see are, in fact, a blanket, but when you see these other photos, they are quite different. They have different markings on them. They're not just a reflective piece.
What have you discovered that debunks the official statement?
When I brought up the exposure, first of all, I saw something that was clearly not a blanket. After I enhanced it a little bit more, I could see that there was almost 2 halves to this craft. One half I thought was, maybe that's the blanket. Maybe we're just seeing it wrong. That wasn't the case. You can see there's almost 2 halves of this thing. It is quite large. And when I looked at the other photos going back to the thermal blanket, this blanket is not very big. We're talking about 4 to 5 feet by 5 foot.
So Chris, in your opinion, does this anomaly appear to be extraterrestrial in origin?
In my opinion, this is not natural. This is something that is intelligently made. Why was it put here? Was it something that they were trying to keep an orbiter around our planet? It's not too far-fetched. We're doing this to Mars. We sent the lander back in 75, 76. Back in 2012, we had our Curiosity rover. Now we have the 2021 rover Perseverance. Is it possible that they're doing the same thing we are doing now?
Talking with Chris convinced me that what we're seeing in these photographs is not a natural occurring phenomenon, and it's simply too big to be a piece of debris. However, If that thing has been there all this time, surely our government knows more about it. For anyone that looks into the Black Knight, one of the first names that will come up is Duncan Lunan, a Scottish author, lecturer, and researcher focused on space travel and astronomy. He investigated the Black Knight and believed that whatever was possibly orbiting our planet could have been sending us signals. In 1972, Lunan attempted to decode signals recorded by Norwegian engineer Jørgen Hals in the 1920s. Hals reported that when he transmitted radio signals, they were being echoed back to him a few seconds later. This is now referred to as long delayed echoes, or LDEs, but yet still not completely understood. At the time, some researchers hypothesized that the signals came from an alien craft. Astronomer Ronald Bracewell wrote about this in the Journal of Nature in the 1960s.
I went back and reread Bracewell's papers, and at the end of one of them he had said, should we be surprised if the first actual message received is a TV image of a constellation to tell us where the spacecraft has come from? So the idea occurred to me that the stars are spaced random in the sky, so a set of star map coordinates would be a random series of numbers.
Duncan plotted the echo's delay times on a graph, eventually forming what appeared to be a star map.
I attempted translations of all the message records I could get hold of, and ended up with, among other things, what appeared to be a plan of their solar system with 6 planets, and they had seemingly evolved on the second one. So this was all in the message. The star maps and that one were published by the British Interplanetary Society. It started as an overnight sensation.
Not only did the message name the constellation Boötis, but it also named a star within that constellation named Epsilon Boötis as the craft's origin. On top of that, Duncan also discovered a date of its origins. He mathematically calculated it first arrived 11,000 years ago. Word of this discovery spread quickly, and his work was published in Time magazine, the National Enquirer, and many newspapers. This man deciphered a code that linked to a star system, a possible intelligent message. The question then remains, have others picked up on the same code, and are they monitoring it? Thomas Mikey Jensen is a filmmaker and researcher from Denmark. His focus is on UFOs, but like many of us, he wonders if our governments might be holding something back. Thomas, thanks for coming on today, man. You found out that there was a government program that's involved in looking for signals from space. Can you tell us about that?
We have in this world a surveillance program called Echelon. It is a surveillance program with the 5 biggest countries called the 5 Eyes. That surveillance program had different satellites connected to it. They were used to spy and receive signals from high Earth orbit and outer space. So what kind of signals from outer space? We had the ISS, we have the Mir space station up there, but could there be more to it that we don't know about? I think if you look into Echelon's archive and look at what they have of received transmissions from outer space, I think we will all be pretty surprised. I think we would reach the maximum disclosure height.
Thomas, this is amazing. What you're telling me now, this might be part of a government project. Do you think that these signals that are being detected by the satellite program are the same ones that Nikola Tesla and Jørgen Hals was receiving?
I think that those signals received by Tesla and Jørgen Hals are the only one the public know about. I think there's a lot more to it. If you look into NASA's history of transmissions received, recorded, and published, you will find missions like STS-29, where they loud and clear say that Houston, we still got that alien spacecraft under observance.
Houston, this is Discovery. We still have the alien spacecraft under observance.
This was received by a ham radio operator. It has never been confirmed what astronauts said it, and NASA haven't really said much more about that communication.
Could programs like Echelon be picking up constant communication from Epsilon Boötis? If this is the case, could the government be monitoring something that is monitoring us? I find it interesting that NASA has taken an interest in Boötis. In fact, they list some ancient connections on their site. According to NASA's Chandra X-ray Observatory website, Boötis constellation is said to be one of the most ancient constellations in the sky. There is no single definitive myth associated with this constellation, but it seems to have impressed early civilizations. An ancient Egyptian legend saw Boötis as a guardian goddess in the form of a hippopotamus who kept the evil pole stars under control. An Arab legend saw the same pole stars as a flock of sheep herded by Boötis. In ancient Babylon, the stars of Boötis were known as Shupah. They were apparently depicted as the god Enlil, who was the leader of the Babylonian pantheon and special patron of farmers. Whatever the myth may be, ancient cultures seem to understand that Boötis controlled the sky and possibly even Earth. Could government entities know something we don't know about an earthly connection to Epsilon Boötis? One that goes back almost 11,000 years as Loudon calculated. If this is true, where else can we uncover more evidence that the government knows about an ancient connection to Boötis and possibly has been monitoring it for years? Look, the idea of cover-ups is nothing new in this field. So I sat down with my friend Jimmy Church. He's an investigator and radio host, someone who's really plugged in to the world of alternative thinking. So Jimmy, I've been researching the Black Knight satellite, and I heard that you found some incredible information. Can you tell us about it?
Yeah, this report, this is an actual NSA document, and it was a report that was written up and distributed for the NSA staff to talk specifically about, and the title of the report is Communication with Extraterrestrial Intelligence.
Wow.
The report itself says, you know, for official use only.
Right.
It's not secret, which indicates that this communication throughout the NSA was something that they were interested in, and they wanted other agents and employees to know about communication with ET. But what is interesting in this report and how this may tie into the Black Knight satellite is they are talking about communication through specific frequencies.
Wow.
And how this would be encoded and decoded, how we could receive it, and then how we could turn around and communicate back with ET. But also inside of this report, when we talk about the Black Knight satellite, certain words have come up with the Black Knight satellite over the years, specifically Epsilon Boötis.
Correct.
Epsilon is mentioned in this report. Very interesting. They also talk about the possibility of a probe being sent information from great distances away and then communicating here on Earth very quickly. What this says is this. Is there something that the NSA knows, right?
Yeah.
That how this communication would happen? I don't think that this is pulled out of thin air, and it's all spelled out in this report. This is a very exciting document that anybody can go and research themselves.
So this is more proof that the government is possibly aware of the Black Knight satellite, the connection to Epsilon Boötis, and has figured out different frequencies of communication. Communication that has been recorded in modern times, starting with Tesla. For people who don't know who Nikola Tesla is, can you describe who he is and talk a little bit about his work and why is it important?
Yeah, Nikola Tesla, if we go back and think about historically where we were as a species at that time in the 1870s, 1880s, 1890s, things were being discovered very quickly. We had electricity coming along and radio started to become a concept. The most forward-thinking person on this planet at that time was Nikola Tesla. And he was thinking about things and dreaming up things that weren't part of society. Laser weapons and not only electricity, but then radio and communication, free electricity, that electricity should be distributed free through radio. Well, he was building these radio towers, the biggest in the world, were set up for a few different things. One, to possibly distribute electricity into homes. And another concept would be communication, to transmit and receive signals. And he starts to hear things. And over these years, he was able to disseminate what was natural, right? And he starts to hear signals that are extraterrestrial. These are his words. And that did not have a source here on Earth. And this was in 1899. For Nikola Tesla, at that time, the smartest person on the planet suddenly says, it's not coming from Earth. We are being spoken to by an extraterrestrial species, and we need to figure out what's going on.
And then in 1928, something happened with Jürgen Hals. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Jürgen Hals, he captured a series of coded signals. And again, this was in 1928. And he felt that it wasn't natural. It wasn't a natural occurrence, that this was repeating and there was a sequence there. He just couldn't figure it out. Then in the mid-1970s, Duncan Lunan went back and took another look at this message. Duncan was a member of many and founded astronomical societies around the world, and he was respected. And what was interesting is not only did he decode it, but when we look at what Duncan decoded to where we are today with the Black Knight satellite and what it represents, it seems that the message was real. But here's the crazy part. If we analyze the NSA document, Epsilon is mentioned in the NSA document. Epsilon is also in this encoded message, which again, this is a curious point. If we go back and look at Duncan's original decoded version of that message, Epsilon is there, Buddhist is there, except they're spelled incorrectly. Had he been aware of Epsilon at the time or the NSA document, would he have spelled it correctly? No. He broke down the coded message the way that it decoded with the incorrect spellings. Isn't that interesting that if you're going to hoax something, if you're going to fake something, you're going to spell it correctly.
Just spell it right.
You're going to spell it right.
Nobody would know.
And here to have Epsilon out of the vastness of space, the ginormity of the universe, how big it is to have Epsilon in the decoded Oslo message, right? And in an NSA document, that says something right there.
And all this information coming out about UFOs caught on radar and the Tic Tac images. Do you think there's a possibility that this could be linked to UAPs?
It all starts to connect itself. Specifically, in Duncan Lunan's decoding, he said that the probe was in the L5 orbit. Now, what is the L5 orbit? Our moon orbits the Earth at a point and a distance from Earth called L5.
Correct.
That this probe is orbiting Earth at the L5 point. That's interesting. How is it interesting? We just launched the James Webb Space Telescope to the L2 point, orbiting Earth. Suddenly, we're discussing these L points. Duncan Lunan brought it up in 1975 in the decoded message and report, the L5. Now we're launching to the L2. Today, we are talking about frequencies and the ability to communicate at certain frequencies, and also how those frequencies may affect us. Now, this is something that is now being brought out in the Senate Intelligence Committee. It's been talked about with different UAP events that have happened. We can also go back and look at the Rendlesham Forest incident, but it's also now part of the legislation, the health effects and frequencies. Well, if we go back and just think about what the NSA was pointing out in this report, they are talking about communicating at these specific frequencies, and it's been the focus. And all of this seems to be connected all the way through.
Now, in the NSA document, it talks about frequencies, which could represent numbers, symbols. A symbol could represent a complete idea. Could it be possible that a person tuned to the right conscious frequency could kind of entangle with these messages and in some way discern them?
This is where we can look at ancient cultures, Hermeticism, alchemy, and what that represents today in the modern world of physics. As above, so below. Everything is connected. Every positive, there's a negative. So if these things are possible, and science today says that they are, and there are people throughout history that have the ability to channel, to communicate, to receive messages, to send messages, then we have to look at somebody like Philip K. Dick and his ability to not only write about alternative history, a parallel world, the multiverse, and channeling. It's one thing to write about it, but where was somebody like Philip K. Dick getting this information? And he specifically talks about the ability of going into these worlds. And he wrote about this many times, including not only The Man in the High Castle and alternative history and alternative worlds, but in Valis. And Valis was a 3-part book series. But what is important about Valis is he was writing about something that he probably didn't know anything about, which was the Black Knight satellite. And Valis was a satellite space probe that was brought here, orbiting Earth, that was channeling information down to the United States government.
After talking to Jimmy Church today, I had an amazing epiphany. First of all, he touched on the fact that the NSA has documents that actually talk about decoding information from space and speaking to extraterrestrial beings. The second thing is the fact that there's a way to transmit information to people on Earth, or transmit information into people's brains. Although mind-blowing, there is only so much we can glean from uncovering modern-day government programs like Echelon and this NSA document. We have to rely on research and accounts collected by groups like MUFON, a civilian UFO data collecting organization that has been in operation since the 1950s, to really understand the scope of this communication. A good friend of mine, Roderick Martin, is a podcaster and researcher who has been affiliated with MUFON for the last several years. If anyone can shed some light on this, it's him. So Roderick, how many cases have you seen from MUFON that connect back to the Epsilon Boötes constellation?
I did some checking with MUFON, and there was probably about 40 or 50 cases. And again, that leads me to believe that these particular witnesses were in touch with something. They didn't just see something. They had an encounter, and then they got a message. A message from this constellation or whatever was giving them this information. There was some from the investigators themselves. But then why would a everyday witness feel or know this type of trajectory, what this information is coming from? And so, man, this thing is huge. This is a huge thing, and I think, again, it needs to be explored.
A lot of people have this psychological tie to the Epsilon Boötes constellation. It's been talked about since ancient times. It's been talked about again now in modern times. There have been experiencers who have also brought this name up, Epsilon Boötes. Do you think there could be some type of a telepathic link, or maybe even a Black Knight, transmitting information directly into people's minds about Epsilon Boötes? Like, why is this coming up so many times?
I can't really speculate there, but I will say this. When I started reading some of the case files within MUFON, because I did find a lot of associations with the constellation, I was like, okay, wait a minute, this is maybe not a coincidence. I really think it is, especially where we are today with what is happening, and with all the technology that we have, we at least can get to some deeper answers.
And so I'm wondering if a super advanced race of beings, maybe 1 million years more advanced than humans, from another galaxy, maybe from another star system, could transmit commands to people and transmit information. And that person could be thinking that they're hearing God, quote unquote, or, you know, connecting with other beings in far places and being told information. Because we know that everybody's mind operates a little bit differently, and maybe some more minds are more receptive, obviously, than others. So it's pretty interesting that you found those cases.
So I would think we could probably come to some conclusions or theory or hypothesis that somebody is watching us. someone that is observing us, someone that is checking out our weakness and strengths and points. Why wouldn't they? And at the end of the day, we should at least know who it is, what it is, and why this is happening. And again, what you're doing here, I think is probably one of the best things ever, because NASA's not going to do it.
Today I talked to a very good friend of mine, Roderick Martin, and it really resonated with me because a lot of the things he said I've been thinking about for a long time, and it kind of gave me confirmation that other people are getting messages out there. I started this investigation because I was being pushed to understand something myself. Messages that led me on this journey to see what could be possibly interfering with humanity. With all this evidence, I still have to play the skeptic. Could these signals actually be coming from something intelligent and deliberate? Or is it pulsars and objects in space we haven't fully understood? Another strange signal was recently detected, and I decided to get the help of Mark D'Antonio, an astronomer and host of SkyTour Radio. I'm hoping that he can shed more light on what we can see and hear coming from deep space, and if it could be possible that we are dealing with something intelligent. Mark D'Antonio, thank you for allowing me to talk to you.
Yeah, sure. In space, our sun has rhythms of its own. The Earth has rhythms, planets have rhythms, and stars have rhythms, other than the sun. In addition, we've identified that some of the signals coming from deep space are the signals of stars long after they've died. They've gone supernova and left behind this core. And this core, usually something called a neutron star, very, very densely packed, will sometimes flash at us as the star rotates, and they usually rotate extremely fast.
Right.
This one, on the other hand, is different because it's not one of these really rapidly spinning pulsar things. It's something else. And that something else still remains to be seen. If I was an alien race and I wanted to signal someone, and I had the capability to blast out a very powerful signal, I would listen to the universe first and say, okay, well, that star's making a sound that's kind of rhythmic. This star's making a sound. We got to do something different.
Yeah. Through my research, it appears that some humans have been claiming to receive signals from outside of the world. Ancient sages, wisdom keepers, and so forth. Is it possible that some of these frequencies can be detected by the human brain?
Well, the point being, there's something there that science just has neglected to study in depth, okay? And what it is, I think, relates to what Einstein called spooky action at a distance, which is quantum entanglement. I think it works, and I made up a word, the brainular level. I think it works at the brainular level as well, between humans. I think that each of us are, in a sense, like the atomic particles that we see quantum entanglement for sure.
You've been studying space for a long time. You're an expert at this. What is the probability that there is alien life out there, and if there is, that they're trying to communicate or contact us or send some type of communication to let us know that they're out there?
Billy, isn't that the million-dollar question?
Yeah.
I mean, this is the thing that keeps me up most of the nights.
Yeah.
Stephen Hawking once said, we should lie low, we shouldn't announce our presence to the universe, right?
Right.
He's 2 billion years too late, because 2 billion years ago is when the oxygen built up in our atmosphere. Oxygen building up in an atmosphere of a planet means something.
Right.
It could be geologic, it could be chemically produced, but not in the quantities like here.
Right.
Here, it's produced by one thing, life. And that life is phytoplankton, the plankton in our oceans.
Yeah.
It basically says it's a water planet and there's life there. Carl Sagan said that pale blue dot that is Earth stands out and can be seen from thousands and thousands and thousands of light years away.
Right.
Right. We're doing that with the James Webb Telescope. We're going to try and look for pale blue dots out there, and if we're doing it, an alien race that's been around for 1 million years longer than us is probably doing it a whole lot better.
In my research, it seems to me that this black night, if it's there, is somehow correlated with the Boötes constellation. Now, Epsilon has been known to have a void in it. Can you just describe to the audience what is a void in space in general? What does that mean?
Epsilon Boötes is a star in that constellation. It's actually a double star in that constellation. But a void is an area in space that is remarkably devoid of stars or other material. When you look in our galaxy, one thing that you notice there's a lot of is dust. Well, in the constellation of Bootes, there is actually a location where there isn't much of anything. And it stands out because of nothing.
There's nothing there. It's crazy. And the reason why it intrigued me was because Michio Kaku had been quoted theorizing, him and a couple other physicists, that it could be a cloaked advanced civilization. So that's why I was like, this is pretty interesting stuff.
Yeah, but Billy, I gotta ask you a question.
Yeah.
What are they hiding from?
Yeah.
And why do they need to hide? That's a little more worrisome.
Yeah, I know.
Right?
Right.
If they're there and that's true, what are they hiding from?
That's a great question. It's a great question, actually.
I have seen examples that I can't explain. These surprise us when they happen here.
Yeah.
And we're trying to track them, we're trying to get a hold of it, we're trying to learn the technology. We want it before anybody else gets it. I mean, that's the basic thing, right, that's going through.
Because you want the advantage.
Yeah, it's not a we are the world thing here. No, it's like we are the ones that want this technology. But it's the great leveler, and if everybody had it, then it wouldn't be a problem. If everybody had it, maybe we'd have energy for the world. Maybe we'd have ways to feed the world.
Exactly.
And then all the fighting, there's no reason to fight anymore.
Exactly, no reason to fight. Yeah.
Right. And that's why I think that we're kind of going down the wrong path.
I've been trying to talk to an astronomer for a very long time, and I finally found one that was willing to share some time with me. Now, what's amazing about Mark D'Antonio is he's not just any old astronomer. He actually contracts with the U.S. government. His theories on the fact that quantum entanglement does exist and that it could be a potential way to communicate with distant stars, and also that there are objects in space that we don't know what they are, that are transmitting signals that might not be quasars or these other different types of stars that emit frequencies towards our planet. He says that there are things out there that actually do transmissions towards our direction that may not be stars, that might be artificial in nature. And so what that means is there could be beings out there trying to communicate with us, or at least communicating with each other, and we're picking up those frequencies and signals. He also talks about the fact that the U.S. military is well aware of some of these transmissions, but they're reluctant to talk to the general public about it. So he adds a lot of credibility because he also talks about Epsilon Boötis and the void that's there. The fact that there's absolutely nothing in this void where there should be something. Even space dust has been removed. And like I said before, Michio Kaku had stated that he thought it could be an advanced cloaked civilization. Again, another piece of the puzzle to the Black Knight satellite investigation. So if something advanced could be contacting us or sending signals from an unknown craft here close to Earth, possibly Epsilon Boötis, what is their purpose for being here? They just show up and the governments of the world cannot capture them? They are elusive, but sometimes visible? Could there be more evidence of our government and other governments coming in contact with the Black Knight satellite? And if so, could the contact be by accident, given our current technology, or on purpose? Author Richard Dolan might be one of the world's most foremost experts on conspiracy theories surrounding UFOs and governments around the world. So Richard, has the U.S. military or NASA disclosed any information about objects in orbit around planet Earth?
Throughout the entire space program of the 1960s, we have, by the Soviets and by the Americans, you have countless instances of astronauts and cosmonauts reporting objects in orbit. One of the really interesting aspects of the Black Knight mystery, in my opinion, comes through the research of really the first great UFO researcher that we had, who was Donald Keyhoe. Keyhoe was a retired U.S. Marine Corps major, then became a journalist. Keyhoe was friends with the first director of the CIA, Roscoe Hillenkotter. He was friends with a lot of other top-level U.S. Navy admirals, and he was good at ferreting out information from the military establishment in an era where, secrets were still kept. And one thing that he learned, we're talking the fall of 1953. This was a time of deep suspicions held by the two superpowers on either side of the ocean. This is right in the middle of the Cold War. This is 4 years before Sputnik, 4 years before the first launched artificial satellite by humankind. Keyhoe's learning from his Navy contacts, high-level people, that the U.S. military was almost in a state of panic. They're like, yeah, we're kind of in a real state of concern here because there's these two objects. They were very difficult to track, but apparently the military, U.S. military, was tracking it. And then finally, this story does come out in the mainstream news in early 1954, in March. Now, you just put this in perspective. So there's only one natural satellite of Earth that we know about. It's called the Moon, and it's about 250,000 miles out, about 250,000 miles out. So suddenly, they're talking about two objects that are like 500 miles orbiting Earth.
This interaction with the two superpowers of the world really makes it seem our beliefs, our structures, our wars are futile. Could their purpose of showing themselves to us back in the early 50s be a display of power or contact? Perhaps we need to consider the possibility that our conventional modes of communication and travel would not be up to the task. Visitors may be relying on technology that modern man is only now just starting to understand. Technology that has an ancient connection, a connection that might be able to lead us to who is behind this satellite. In March of 2022, NASA made an announcement that caught my eye: the Space Entanglement and Annealing Quantum Experiment, or SEAQ, to test if two entangled photons could remain linked in space. They claim that maintaining this entanglement could theoretically allow quantum computer systems on Earth to communicate or share data, even if they are separated by vast distances. Could an advanced form of this quantum entanglement, as Mark D'Antonio pointed out, be for transmitting data across the cosmos? And is there evidence that the ancients had already acquired a deeper understanding of the universe and this technology? To learn more, I spoke with quantum physicist Jamie Janover. Jamie, thanks for taking the time to come on here with me, man. I know you've been working with Nassim Haramein, or working with him with his Unified Physics program. You're also a researcher into ancient civilizations, and you're also a world traveler. You actually travel to the sites, which is what I really admire about you, and go there and do hands-on archaeological research.
So the entire universe might be riddled with a fabric of quantum wormholes, and that's how the universe is able to talk to itself or keep its coherency from the cosmological scale all the way down to the quantum scale.
In your travels around the world, where have you seen evidence of ancient civilizations having advanced knowledge of the stars?
We can tell that these ancient civilizations had an incredible knowledge of not just the stars and their relationship of where the Earth is in the galaxy, and it points to not only having some sort of ancient technology, but also having an ability to see the landscape of the Earth and map it and match it to the stars. And the best way to do that is to get off the surface. The evidence is right there in front of us. It's just a matter of putting these pieces together.
We tend to think of contact with extraterrestrials as a modern-day phenomenon. But Jamie is specifically talking about the alignment of temples and structures to star systems that are nearly impossible to do from the surface of the Earth. There is so much mystery that surrounds these ancient ruins and who built them. Could looking to antiquity start to unravel how long this has been going on? And who could be contacting us and why? According to the NASA site, the Sumerians connected Enlil with the Boötis constellation. Having studied Sumerian mythology and understanding the Anunnaki gods attached to the Sumerian culture, I wonder if there is something in the ancient texts that explain their possible connection. A good friend of mine named Alex Teplish, he's an author. He wrote a book on the ancient Sumerians, and I was asking him some questions about the Black Knight satellite and its possible relation to these ancient civilizations. So Alex, who were the Anunnaki in your opinion?
We must first discuss who the Sumerians were. The Sumerians were actually the first civilization known to man that had writing, advanced mathematics, advanced astronomy, and invented countless things that we still use to this day, including the wheel. This civilization existed in the ancient Mesopotamia, or modern-day Iraq, and the surrounding areas. Their scribes kept very meticulous records of their daily lives in the form of clay tablets using the cuneiform script. There is no record of any other civilization that had writing in such advances leading up to this one that we know of.
In your opinion, is there any evidence that suggests that the Anunnaki actually created human beings?
In the poem, the god Ea, also known as Enki, creates a Lulu, the first man. to be a helper to the gods. As the poem states, when Ea Enki the wise had created mankind, had imposed the toil of the gods on them. This is similar to the biblical text where it states, God said, "Let us make man in our image, after our likeness." Another ancient text that mentions the Anunnaki is the Epic of Gilgamesh, which describes the deluge or flood, similar to the story of Noah's Ark.
In your opinion, do you think that these advanced beings have an intention of really controlling or enslaving humanity?
With their advanced knowledge, extremely long lifespans, and a head start on planet Earth, the Anunnaki would be able to manipulate and control mankind. They also possessed objects called maze, which restored foundational knowledge related to social institutions, religious practices, technologies, behaviors, and customs that make a civilization. Some describe these maze as objects, possibly storage crystals that the gods would share with mankind, imparting knowledge and progress to our development as a civilization.
Gods imparting information and progress to our development through storage crystals called MEs? I just couldn't help but make the connection that most of our data from the Black Knight comes from ham radio operators that picked up signals from space. This technology uses crystals. We also have many cases of people getting messages. According to the research, the pineal gland in our brain also has tiny crystals that pick up signals from our field. The story just keeps getting deeper. According to Alex, the Anunnaki were here and directly affecting the human species, altering them forever. Today, it appears that the Anunnaki are no longer here. But is their influence still being felt? Are they still watching from afar? Are they still imparting information onto us? And if so, why? The Sumerian culture predates ancient Egypt in some texts. And although Alex explained to me the connection we have with Enki making us in his likeness, could there be another connection to the other Sumerian god Enlil, which the Boötis constellation is dedicated to? I received some video input from Johnny Enoch, a researcher in this area. It could be possible that the signals coming from the Black Knight could be a system set up by an ancient connection, one that leads us to a single God with a single purpose.
When we go back and examine the writings of Zecharia Sitchin, we learn about the Anunnaki and Enlil, how in his palace at Eridu there was an all-seeing eye above it that can monitor all the activity on Earth. This is very similar to what we find when we look at the Lord of the Rings movies and you see the eye of Lord Sauron. This is not unlike the concept we find today in quantum computing, where we're aware of every particle in the universe and what has gone on. But could this be part of the Black Knight satellite? Could this be how Earth activity is tracked? We're talking about putting satellites up there today to watch every square inch of the Earth.
If, according to mythology, Enlil is connected to the all-seeing eye, and he is also connected to Boötis, and Boötis is connected to the Black Knight satellite through Lunan's research, do we have the person and possible group responsible for its existence? Let's not forget that Lunan also gave us a timestamp of 11,000 years ago. According to some scholars, this was close to the fall of Atlantis, possibly the fall of the Anunnaki. Would they have left their Project Earth behind with only a satellite to monitor us? I've turned to one of the world's leading experts in ancient astronaut theory, Eric von Daniken, to walk me through it. Do you think that these beings could have left a satellite in orbit around Earth a long time ago?
Not only a satellite, many satellites. These so-called satellites are called von Neumann probes. Von Neumann, he was a German and a Polish mathematician, and he has come to the following idea. The space probe has the possibility to observe the planets, to listen if there are radio signals, TV signals, etc. And this space probe has the possibility to multiply itself. So it's like a cell. After 200 years, you have not only one of these space probes, the so-called von Neumann probe, you have two. And I suggest the universe is full of these probes.
Why would these advanced beings, why would they want to monitor us?
Because we are the descendants. In every great human religion, including the Bible, including the Torah, including the Quran, they say that the gods, and the gods in plural, created humans according their image. It was not the spiritual beings. These extraterrestrials, they created humans according their image. And they created evolution. They made us intelligent. And now it is our duty to go out in the universe and repeat this game. The intelligent form of life will fill the whole universe. That's the purpose of it.
If humans have been witnessing or interacting with extraterrestrial beings since the beginning, that would have had a profound impact on mankind. I have spent a lot of time exploring and researching what remains of ancient civilizations. But Freddie Silva, a renowned author and researcher, connects some of the dots on why all these ancient myths and legends from not only Sumeria, but also around the world, prove that something happened around 11,000 years ago that altered our course in humanity, just about the time when the Black Knight satellite is reported to have existed. When I looked into this, and I said, man, who can I get that can really explain to the audience who these ancient Sumerian people were?
Well, the Sumerians are fascinating because there's this group of people that show up seemingly out of nowhere. They come with their own writing form, their own mythology, which usually takes thousands of years of development. They come complete with a building construction type that no one's ever seen before. Well, that suggests that there's a root culture behind all of this.
Now, in my studies, I've come across these ancient Sumerian gods, Enki and Lil. Can you describe to the audience specifically who they are and kind of what their attributes were?
This formless individual who basically, out of which everything is created, the universe comes out of An or Anu, also called Ar and Ara, and it is expressed through these characters called Enki and Enlil. They fight amongst themselves like most siblings tend to do. So Anu essentially is the godhead that forms part of this sort of divine trinity. Then you get Enki, and he's interesting because he's the god of wisdom. He's also responsible for making sure that all the systems that underlie forms of agriculture and animal husbandry are held together. So hence he's associated with underground water. Without water, you have nothing. Who's going to take care of the material world? We need to create these beings called humans from the soil of the earth and also from a drop of the blood that we have, which is the divine. And then there's Enlil, the god of authority. But he didn't start off that way. He started off as the sort of a sibling of Enki. He's responsible for putting a crack in the earth, and from that crack comes the growth of vegetal and animal life. So he's a symbol of the trinity out of which everything grows. Later on in the Babylonian era and the Akkadian era, when he becomes the god of authority and authoritarianism and the god of war, he's been misused at that point. They've taken this concept and they've completely moved it to a political agenda.
So, Freddie, on my research on the Book of Enoch, I've come across some text in there that really talks about him worshiping this sky god, this god of heaven. Not only worshiping this God of heaven, but according to the text, it even appears as if he had an appointed day to even go into heaven.
So we have this scribe called Enoch, whose original name is Emed-Ur-Anu. Enoch is a Hebrewized name. So that tells us a lot about the origin of where he comes from. He's one of the Anunnaki. He's already a qualified person above hunter-gatherers. Okay, and it's a fascinating account because, first of all, he's telling us about how he goes on this cloud-shaped object that goes progressively high from place to place, from one heaven to another heaven to another heaven. I'm thinking, well, how many heavens can there possibly be? Well, that was my first big question. I thought, wait a minute. Is there a translation error going on here? And it turns out that the original interpretation is haven, not heaven. So they're havens, they're ports of call.
Now, the way that they maneuvered around this planet and the way that they got this technology, has there been any text that you've read or any of your research that led you to understand how they got this advanced?
When I was very fortunate to hang out with the late Clifford Mahuti, who Dilliness.
Yeah.
He was talking about the stories of the Zuni and then the people of the Hopi and the Lakota and many other tribes in North America.
Yeah.
And they talk about very unambiguously about the flying shields, that this is one method that they use to get around from A to B, and not just around the Earth. So we're clearly describing flying saucers for any other shape, but they're also at one point able to get from here to somewhere else. And then they kind of forgot how to do it, and then they used other means. They would build special places on the Earth where they could actually do this.
Yeah.
But then there's another side to the story, because after the flood, the one thing that holds all the stories of the flood and the bringing of civilization and the accoutrements of civilization to the surviving humans, thankfully to the lords of Anu, without whom we wouldn't have survived. The god Enki shows up again, and Enlil shows up again, but these are now real people that have taken on the mantle of the gods that were invisible in the first place. I do agree to a certain extent about this, because it's also mentioned in a lot of New Age circles that we are not separate from the rest of the universe.
Yeah.
What we do down here echoes into eternity.
Right.
So we let off a big bang in the middle of Nevada. You know someone on the other side of the universe is going to say, let's take a look at this, because let's see if they're doing this responsibly, because, you know, even the gods didn't get it right.
Right, same story, same exact story. It makes sense that these people would want to watch us and observe us. And it also seems to me, based off of this information, that it seems like the same master architect has taught this information, and whoever it was handed down to, they went and copied and mimicked it, maybe throughout the entire galaxy.
I think so.
Yeah.
It seems to be more often than not. And it's kind of funny that now we're reaching a point in our Earth time where all the systems are in distress.
Yeah.
And we're now talking about this. It seems as though we're back to where we were 12,000 years ago. We are imitating exactly what the gods were doing. And this time, I believe, we'll get ourselves out of a big pickle. And that, I think, will be the ultimate raising of human consciousness.
Right.
That we worked as a whole to get ourselves out of this enormous hole that we've found ourselves in. And ironically, become the gods we've been waiting for.
Yes.
Now, that would be kind of a cool way to close off this entire human scenario for the last 12,000 years.
Oh, yeah.
The Watchers are called the messengers.
Yes.
They keep watch on us because they're thinking, well, perhaps they're not going in the right direction.
Right.
So let's just sort of suggest a few things and then leave it with them to sort it out.
As I go deeper into this investigation and deeper into conversations about the outside forces manipulating or influencing humans, I can't shake the feeling that we are dealing with something that is ingrained in our blood, a connection to the stars that keeps us wanting to remember. Some people seem to be connected to a higher purpose, while others are interpreting the frequencies wrong. Maybe, like Mark D'Antonio said, governments of the world have been picking up this signal for years and want the technology, but for the wrong reasons. While others, since antiquity, are picking up a message about what needs to happen for humanity to move forward. I just feel I need to analyze this from a more esoteric position, some way that can't be fully explained with technology or conventional concepts. Perhaps no one is more qualified to help me with this other than renowned artist, healer, and researcher, Sonia Grace. I brought you here because you have a way of understanding these indigenous cultures from all around the world. So I want to ask you, when it comes to things like indigenous cultures, tapping into information from above, what do you know about that?
That whole idea of looking to demigods is practiced around the world. Of course, we have the Egyptian gods, the Mayan gods, the Greek gods, and when each phase of humanity happens, this is when they come to the people and they help create all these different civilizations, cross-pollinate with the people, influence them, and create all of their ceremonies.
And so in these ceremonies, do maybe the sages or the witch doctors or the leaders of these tribes, do they get information from above, or do they claim to get information or some inspiration from a higher source?
Absolutely, absolutely. Because if you think about it, in the unseen world, everything exists. At the very highest level are the angels and the demigods. And then it works its way down, entities, aliens, you know, creepy, smarmy demons, all this stuff. So it all exists, and we come from that unseen world.
Interesting.
We know the Anunnaki came here to enslave humans. And we know the reptilians have also had that in their agenda. We're super young as a species, and I'm sure that we're seen as easily manipulated and taken over. But what we have that they can't stand is we have free will.
Yeah. What's interesting also, looking into the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, one of the verses in there talks about the fact that he would travel from planet to planet. He would watch civilizations rise and fall. They go through this golden age, and then they fall because they are being dominated by another race of beings. And then after they overcome that, they say, we're in control of our own destiny, and they rise then to their own golden age. And could this be the cycle that's going on over and over again throughout the entire universe?
Absolutely. Someone who has experienced being that kind of messenger most likely has had that happen throughout every lifetime they've been in on Earth.
In the last few years, there's been an uptick in UFO activity, but now been disclosed by the Pentagon and military sources. Do you think there's any link or connection to that with the Black Knight satellite?
What I feel is that as the Earth sends out the signals, we're coming to the end of a phase of humanity, that satellite gets triggered. Aliens who are observing Earth are all aware of this. We've got tons of different alien species coming through to Earth right now. And yes, that satellite's going off. It is giving out the signal that there is some big changes coming to planet Earth.
Nice. And do you think these aliens that may have put the Black Knight in orbit are connected to the Anunnaki?
I think that they're connected, but I think it's an early reptilian race that brought this satellite, the Black Knight, into orbit. And I also feel that the Anunnaki are indirectly connected to them because all of these guys were here when this phase of humanity began.
Could it be that there is an object up there like this Black Knight satellite that could be transmitting information into somebody's mind and getting them to think that they're hearing a voice from a spiritual entity?
And haven't we all really been fearful of artificial intelligence and, you know, that big computer in that giant warehouse that's like controlling everyone? It's like that. So absolutely, I believe the satellite can transmit information to people and probably the certain people that they want to influence and create what they want to create.
If this is all true, that gods came here and set up shop, made us, and then left, only to monitor us from afar and communicate with us, has anyone identified more proof of the monitoring? Is it all being done with frequencies, and could there be some kind of network set up on our planet for information? Steve Mara is a former NATO communications officer, a parapsychologist, and an accomplished researcher of UFO phenomena.
Some of these locations where UFO activity is taking place, most commonly, are areas known as positive magnetic regions. And there are a number of these all around the planet where if you do a cross-examination between the most significant UFO cases against these locations, you'll find that there seems to be a correlation, not just from the paranormal, but also paranormal, cryptids, and disappearances.
Wow.
However, there was also talk and discussions regarding strange objects around planet Earth, including profoundly unusual satellites.
Steve Mara hit on something that I couldn't stop thinking about. Not only are there locations on our planet that report a high frequency of UFO sightings, but these same places also seem to host cryptids or paranormal phenomena. These same places host cases of abductions, implants, and tracking devices. How can that be? My investigation was about to take an unexpected turn. In the summer of 2021, a report released by the Pentagon acknowledged the authenticity of videos captured by U.S. Navy aircraft and then later leaked to the public. By now, almost everyone has seen them. Startling footage of sphere-shaped craft moving at impossible speeds. But this wasn't the first time military pilots have reported sharing the sky with strange orbs. During World War II, pilots described being followed by these shapes, later dubbed Foo Fighters. Could it be possible that all of these sphere-like objects are connected to the Black Knight? That all of this activity could be part of a huge monitoring system that has certain areas that seem to be hotspots? That's when I found Patrick Jackson, a UK-based researcher and author and reverse engineer who has developed a profound theory. He has discovered that in these hotspots where people report activities, there are also spheres seen. He believes all of these spheres communicate high levels of data back to some type of mothership. Part of his research includes recorded high levels of radiation around these spheres, and most importantly, a discovered communication network in between spheres. He has figured out how to communicate with them by scrambling their system using a binary code. A binary code that looks very similar to what was picked up and published in the NSA document. What if the smoking gun to the Black Knight and how it works is right in the MUFON reports, the government reports, and right above our heads? Thank you for coming on today. I think somehow some of the things that you've been studying and researching in your own discoveries, spheres, orbs, fireballs, could put together some more pieces of the puzzle. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah, sure. So the spheres were called Foo Fighters back in World War II. And now they've become the most common UFO seen in the world. And they would use a network for communication and coordination. So it wouldn't surprise me if the Black Knight was a big part of that network.
Incredible. So these spheres, they have a way, you think, of communicating and coordinating with each other?
Yeah, in fact, they appear to use three networks. One is a direct peer-to-peer network via microwaves. The second is the ground relay network, which uses a smaller Type 3 sphere in buildings. And then there's a ground-based network. The main control mechanism comes from the ground up. So it wouldn't surprise me if there's a data link from the ground to somewhere like the Black Knight.
How have you been able to discover the way that these things are interacting with each other?
I found there was a code in the crop circle, which a mathematician extracted, and I copied it, and I put it into an app, a phone app. Basically, what it does is you turn the app on, and because he sees when they hear the binary code, it triggers them into action. So you will actually get a heightened level of activity in seconds when you use this code. And it's been tested all over the world.
Well, that's interesting. So, because like I said, this NSA document, it shows that they had used or decoded something to some rudimentary binary code. So maybe they found a way to initiate the beginning stages of some type of a binary system.
I mean, to figure out what it really does, what we need to do is get more information on it. You need to track it. You need to find its flight patterns, monitor its signals. Once you get the signals, they can be analyzed, and then the network can start being reverse engineered. This system goes back thousands of years. The binary code it uses is not that difficult to crack, and it's not that difficult to replicate. So it's not using any sort of fantastic encryption. It's actually fairly straightforward. And that's why I think it is such an old system. I think it's fairly accessible to anyone who tries.
I never believed that I would find evidence of a possible network associated with the Black Knight satellite. A network active today, interacting with humans on all sorts of levels and sending data back quantumly. We have several devices quite possibly infiltrating our consciousness on this planet, and from the government documents we have dug up, we have discovered that these connections work on certain frequencies. So where does that leave us? Are we being manipulated to continue to create war and destruction? Or are we being led to create a new humanity? My conversation with Patrick opened up a whole new world of possibilities, a merging of the extraterrestrial, the paranormal, and strange downloads, which was also something Sonia Grace presented. I wanted to take this a little bit further. Randy Weitenheimer, a quantum teacher who explains how information gets picked up and how it is translated in some of these locations.
One of the things I learned is you might want to calibrate the consciousness of what you're dealing with. In other words, is it a positive consciousness you're dealing with, or is it a negative consciousness? Very simple, because that's going to alter the information flows, or it's going to change maybe what you're seeing from being the truth or hearing to something that's not true. And one of the things about Tesla and Einstein, all through history, you find people go, I didn't invent, like Einstein. He didn't invent it. It came to him in the middle of the night, and he wrote it down. He says that. Tesla woke up one morning and drew out the dynamos we have at Niagara Falls. And what's crazy, he drew them out in detail.
Wow.
So he didn't have a background in that. because that's an engineering side. That had to come from what we would say, not his own consciousness. I think that the entirety of human experience comes from not us.
Yeah. Do you think it's possible that if a conscious being is having a thought, if I'm thinking of a particular concept or an idea or an invention, that becomes a permanent part of this information field, that somebody else at some other time can quantum entangle with that frequency, and if they can discern it, then they can actually bring it to fruition? Do you think that's possible?
Oh, yeah. In fact, I think that's how all invention occurs. It's my opinion that the information for anything you want to know is already there.
If the information is out there, could my investigation into the Black Knight actually bring to light a struggle by humanity that has been disconnected from our origins and our potential? You know, I set out on this journey because I wondered, like most humans, why we live in such tumultuous times. I set out on this journey because there were things I couldn't explain in my own reality, and what I discovered was more than a satellite. Is it possible that there is a network linked to the Black Knight to monitor us, to connect with us? I learned modern-day UFO activity is increasing because different species are trying to reach out to our consciousness, to influence us, all under the watchful eye of the gods that might have created us. Whether that is true or not, I discovered years of government data interacting with something otherworldly. Government documents discussing communication through frequencies and mathematical formulas. Mathematical formulas that lead to a constellation, Boötis, and possibly a star, Epsilon Boötis, a star system connected to our ancient ancestors. Ancient ancestors who possibly set up a monitoring system to not only interact with our consciousness, but implant us with knowledge. From my research, I gleaned that what we decide to do with that knowledge is up to how we perceive these messages, these frequencies. If this is the case, we need to be responsible for our future, be responsible for what we are thinking and perceiving. Maybe in the end, instead of waiting for a new policy to pass, a new government law to emerge, or for a God to save us, we recognize the truth that the ancients left behind inscribed in walls, and maybe somewhere buried in our subconscious. That we are the gods we have been waiting for, and that the potential is right here, right now, in each of us to change the course of humanity. Let's send that message to our ancestors.
Black Knight, satellite, hey, Black Knight, satellite, Black Knight. Everything ended with destruction, got them wondering just what I'm up to. Be careful when you knock on those doors, might see a monster. Making assumptions, making them something, what's making it function. You don't know what's really living among us. You don't know who's observing up there with the compass. North Pole like Krampus, no, any kind of smoke don't want it. Black Knight chess moves, they catch ills. The government won't tell, they blackmail the playmakers. Rulers off in the space, scraper office of the planet. Submit an app, you might catch the vapors. Damn. Stranger than fiction, it might the same. No, it wasn't a dream. Pull up on the scene, no telling what could it be. They say it's debris, but it's plain to see. So definite, Jermaine Dupri. Smart contract, this planet's an NFT. Black Knight. night satellite. Trying to figure out when I'ma take flight. Still can't see me with the flashlights. Trying to take a picture of the black night. Black night satellite. Hey, black night satellite.
They say an eye for an eye. What about the all-seeing eye? The eye in the sky. Watch a man cry. Ever since ancient times, the eye left by creators that divide. Watch a man strive just to stay alive. Planet full of strife. Put down the guns and knife. The watchers of Epsilon spy. While women and children cry. Politics is lie. Child labor ain't right. Government oversight. Three-letter agencies. Profit from lies. Mental slaves. No appetite. They heads to the phone. Time spent swipe. Inky and Lil fight. We can't deny. Just keep your eye on the black night.
Black night satellite. Trying to figure out when I'ma take flight. Still can't see me with the flashlights. Trying to take a picture of the black night. Black night satellite. Hey, black night satellite.
Yeah, check it out. Now you see me, now you don't. Hey, polar orbits when I float. Hey, humans calling me a mystery. I came from that university. They calling me the Black Knight, cause they know how to act right. In the presence of God's immaculate at night. Disappear, get your facts right. As I go through facades, dark matter, radiator light, penetrator, observing these humans awaiting a savior. The savior is you. Do you know what you can do? I'm here for you. Black Teflon made out of matter. Try and get you decoding my messages sent from Epsilon. The star maps for the star packs. A pack of stars became humans and that's all facts. The Black Knight.
Black night satellite. Trying to figure out when I'ma take flight. Still can't see me with the flashlights. Trying to take a picture of the black night. Black night satellite. Hey, black night satellite.
Called to me then the master, saying, Gather ye my people, take them by the arts ye have learned far across the waters, until ye reach the land of the hairy barbarians, dwelling in the caves of the desert. Follow there the plan ye know of. Gather then my people, and entered into the great ship of the master. Upward we rose into the morning. Dark beneath us lay the temple. Suddenly over it rose the waters, vanished from earth, until the time appointed was the great temple. Fast we fled toward the sun of the morning, until beneath us lay the land of the children of Khem. Raging they came with cudgels and spears, lifted in anger, seeking to utterly destroy the sons of Atlantis. Then I raised my staff and directed a ray of vibration, striking them still in their tracks as fragments of stone of the mountain. Then I spoke to them in words calm and peaceful, telling them of the might of Atlantis, saying, we were children of the sun and its messengers. Cowed I them by my display of magic science, until at my feet they groveled. When I released them, long dwelt we in the land of Khem, long and yet long again, until obeying the commands of the master, who while sleeping yet lives eternally. I sent for me the sons of Atlantis, sent them in many directions, that from the womb of time wisdom might rise again in her children.